Welcome in everybody to another lesson. Today we are going to do variables with decimals part 2. So what does part 2 entail? That entails equations such as this. You have 4.2x equal to 39.06. So you're going to have a decimal multiplied by a variable instead of a decimal plus a variable. It's a decimal multiplied by a variable. But again, like any other equation with a variable, the goal is to get the variable by itself. So we have 4.2 times x. That means we need to divide by 4.2. So what you do to one side, you got to do to the other. So you'll have 4.2x divided by 4.2 equal to 39.06 divided by 4.2. Well, x will end up becoming by itself because 4.2 divided by 4.2 is 1. So you'll have x is equal to 39.06 divided by 4.2. Okay, now we are left with a decimal division equation, which I will work out over here. So we have 39.06 divided by 4.2. Well, what we see in the divisor of 4.2 is a decimal. We definitely don't want to have that. So what we're going to want to do is rewrite this to where the decimal is out of the divisor. How we do that is we move it over one decimal place to the right. So that'll be 42 in the divisor. But what you do to the divisor, you must do to the dividend. You'll move it over one decimal place to the right in the dividend to make it 390.6. Alright. Now what we are left with here is we got to figure out how many times does 42 go into 390. Well, I know if it went in 10 times it'd be 420, which would put you over the 390.6. So, oh yeah, let me put the decimal place here where I need it. Up in the quotient. But I'm going to say 42 goes into 399 times. And I'll work that out here. I'll work out that multiplication to figure out exactly what is 42 times 9. So 2 times 9 is 18. Keep the 8, carry the 1. 9 times 4 is 36 plus 1 is 37. Alright. So 42 does go into 390, in fact, 9 times. 9 times 42 we just worked out to be 378. So 390 minus 78, that's going to be 12. You bring down that 6 from the dividend. And then you got to figure out how many times does 42 go into 126. It turns out it goes in exactly 3 times. So you'll do 3 times 42, which will be 126. 126 minus 126 is 0. So the answer you should get is 9.3. So the variable answer is going to be 9.3 once you work through all your decimal division. Alright. I got 4 more. Okay. Let's say I give you 36y is equal to 14.76. Well, obviously the goal is to get y by itself. Well, in order to do that, we're going to have to divide both sides by 36. So let's go ahead and do that here. You divide both sides by 36, you'll get y by itself. So y will equal 14.76 divided by 36. At which point we will work out that division problem over on the side here. So Let's figure out what 14.76 divided by 36 is. Okay. Well, oh yeah, first always place the decimal in the quotient right above where it is in the dividend. 36 doesn't go into 14, but it sure does go into 147. But how many times is the question? I'm going to wager a guess of 4. Let's do 36 times 4 on the side. I think it goes in 4 times. So 6 times 4 is 24. Keep the 4, carry the 2. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 2 is 14. Wow, we were real close there. It does go in 4 times. So it goes in 147 4 times. 4 times 36 we just worked out on the side. That's going to be 144. So remember, when you're doing a subtraction with the decimals here in the division part, you ignore the decimal for the time being. 147 minus 144 is 3. Bring down your 6. Then you'll have 36 goes into 36 how many times? Just 1 time. Then 1 times 36, well, that's 36. So 36 minus 36 is 0. We have a remainder of 0. So your answer to this, figure out what the variable is, the answer is going to be y equals 0.41. That's what you would get for y, is 0.41. I got 3 more. Okay. Let's say I give you 0.25q is equal to 789.23. So 0.25q equals 789.23. Again, we want to get the q by itself, so we divide both sides by 0.25. So let's go ahead and do that here. Divide both sides by 0.25. Well, the q will end up being by itself. Then we'll be left with a nice little division problem of 789.23 over 0.25, which we will happily work out on the side. Well, let's go ahead and write that out. 789.23 divided by 0.25. Well, if we look here, we have decimal in the divisor, which we don't want. In order to get rid of the decimal, we're going to have to move that to the right 2 decimal places. So you're going to rewrite this. You'll have 25 in the divisor if you move it to the right 2 decimal places. But what you do to the divisor, you must also do to the dividend. You'll move that to the right 2 decimal places. You'll end up with 78,923. All right. Now we can do the division. How many times does 25 go into 78? 3 times. 3 times 25, that's 75. 78 minus 75, that's 3. Bring down the 9 from the dividend. 25 goes into 39 how many times? Once. 1 times 25, well, that's just 25. 39 minus 25, that's going to be 14. Bring down the 2 from the dividend. Now you got to figure out how many times does 25 go into 142. It would go in 5 times. It goes in 5 times. So 5 times 25, well, that's just going to be 125. 142 minus 125, that's going to be 17. Bring down your 3 from the dividend. 25 goes into 173 how many times? 6 times. 6 times that. Okay, so we have 6 times 25, which is 150. I know, this is quite a big equation. So 173 minus 150 is 23. Alright, now this is where we can tack on zeros in the dividend after the decimal point until we get no remainder. So, bring down a 0 from the dividend. 25 goes into 230 how many times? Goes in 9 times. 9 times 25. Let's see. Let me make sure I got everything here. Yeah, okay. 9 times 25 is 225. Alright. We're almost there, folks. 230 minus 225 is 5. Alright, let's tack on another 0 in the dividend to make it where we can bring down a 0 from the dividend. So bring down a 0, you'll have 50. 25 goes into 50 twice. And I can tell you if you do 2 times 25, you'll get 50 minus 50, which will give you a remainder of 0. So the answer we're looking for here for the variable is going to be Q is equal to 3,156.92. That would be the answer to this equation after doing all the long division. Just remember, in long division with decimals, to the right of the decimal you can tack on as many zeros as you need until you get no remainder. But we found the answer to Q. Alright, got 2 more. Let's say I give you 23t is equal to 1048.8. So again, like any variable equation, get t by itself. In order to do that, you divide both sides by 23. So t will go by itself. That'll be equal to 1048.8 divided by 23. At which point we can go ahead and work out the division over on the side. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll have 1048.8 divided by 23. Well, good news is there's no decimal in the divisor, so we can go straight through and do the division. So now we got to figure out how many times does 23 go into 104. It's going to go in 4 times. So 23 times 4. What's 3 times 4? Well, that's 12. Keep the 2, carry the 1. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. Alright, so yes, it does go in 4 times. So, he put the 4 where the 104 is. 4 times 23 is, well, 92. 104 minus 92, that's going to be 12. Bring down an 8 from the dividend. Now we got to figure out how many times does it go into 128. Could it be 6 times? I wonder. Let's see if it's 6 times. It may not be, but sometimes how you have to experiment in math is you got to see if you think it goes how many times or a certain number of times, you do the multiplication on the side to see. 3 times 6 is 8. Keep the 8, carry the 1. 6 times 2 is 12 plus 1 is 13. No, that'll put us over. It would look like it goes in 6 times, but it doesn't. So 23 would have to go in 5 times, because 138 is over 128. So 23 would go in 128 5 times. So let's put that here. 5 times 23, let's work that out. 3 times 5 is 15. Keep the 5, carry the 1. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 1 is 11. Alright. So 23 goes into... so let's see. 5 times 23 is 115. 128 minus 115, well, that's just going to be 13. Bring down that 8 from the dividend. 23 goes into 138. We determined 6 times. So 6 times 23 is 138. 138 minus 138 is 0. We have a remainder of 0, which means we have found our solution. So t is going to equal 45.6. That would be our answer for the variable t, 45.6. Alright, I got one more problem here. So we have 28.2x is equal to 423. 28.2x equals 423. Well, again, get x by itself, which means you divide both sides by 28.2. So let's go ahead and do that. 28.2. Okay. Well, x will end up being by itself. You'll be left with 423 divided by 28.2. So now we just got to figure out the division problem. What exactly does that equal? 423 divided by 28.2. Well, let's come over on the side here. Let's work that out. So you'll have 423 divided by 28.2. For this problem, let's use the fact that every whole number has a decimal point of 0.0 after that. If it helps you, you can write that. The worst case scenario you'll get if you decide to use that decimal point of 0 is you'll get a 0.0. That's the worst thing that could happen. It's actually very good to get in the habit of writing 0.0 and adding as many zeros as you need so you can get down to no remainder. That's the goal. But here in the dividend, we see 28.2. We have a decimal place. In order to get rid of the decimal place from the dividend, we're going to have to move it one place to the right. So your problem's going to look something like this. You'll have 282 now in the dividend if you move it one place to the right. And you see why I put that decimal point 0 there. Because we got to move the divisor's got 282. The dividend will now be 4,230. Let's do 0.0 again, just to be safe. Okay? So now we got to figure out how many times does 282 go into 423? One time. It goes in once. 1 times 282, well, that's just going to be 282. If you subtract 423 from 282, what are you going to get? 3 minus 2 is 1. That'd be like a 12 minus 8 is going to be 4. 3 minus 2 would be 1. So your answer is going to be 141. Bring down a 0 from the dividend. Now you got to figure out how many times does 282 go into 1410. Into 1410. I almost want to say 5 times. If I had to guess, I'm going to say 5 times. I could be wrong, but that's what working out multiplication on the side is for. So 2 times 5, well, that's just 10. Keep the 0, carry the 1. 5 times 8 is 40 plus 1 is 41. Keep the 1, carry the 4. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 4 is 14. Well, what do you know? It goes in 5 times exactly. Okay. So we have 1410. So 282 goes into 1,410 exactly 5 times. So if you do 5 times 282, you'll get 1,410. You'll have a remainder of 0. So it looks like the answer we're looking for here for x, looks like x is going to be equal to 15. So it's just a matter of course, getting the variable by itself, but then solving the resulting equation where you have decimal division. And remembering what we learned from last lesson about getting the decimal out of the divisor and then solving the resulting equation. Sometimes you'll have to do multiplication on the side to do your guesswork to figure out how many times a number goes into another number. But that's really all there is to these variables with decimals, part 2. Next lesson is going to be order of operations with decimals. Hope everybody has a good day. Take care.